Hello, everyone. My name is Liam Karlinsky, and this is the second episode of my podcast. Today I'm here with,
Mara.
who also happens to be my mother. Kind of crazy. Okay, so talk a little bit about your life. You were born in New York, grew up in Miami in the, I don't know which years, the
80s?
80s.
Why do you have to say this?
I- because it adds to the story. What was Miami like in the 90s or the 80s? Like
More 90s, I guess. More
when you were a
90s.
teenager, what was Miami
I,
like? Very different from
I know.
today, right?
Yeah. I mean,
How,
I think so. Part of the reason why I wanted to move my kids, I grew up in Miami. I lived, and then I went away for a while to New York and went to college in Boston. But part of the reason why I wanted to move my kids out of Miami was because probably my own teenage years um felt like Miami was an amazing place, but also had we had too much freedom. We were going out to clubs when we were teenagers.
but do you think
And
that's
in the
that
late 90s.
time or that's Miami?
I think the late 90s in Miami was when it started, it was already becoming really great, but it also was still kind of a lawless place where, 15-year-olds could go into clubs and they don't really ID you. But drinks were still $22. That's why I didn't drink a lot in high school. I hardly drank because it was so expensive to buy a drink. It was also filled with models, Miami then, and it was not good on the insecurity of a teenage girl. That's for sure. You go to a bar and you try to order a drink, and there were, these Amazon models who the bartender would obviously pay attention to. It would take you like 3 hours to get a drink. It was not good for the self-esteem.
So you went out to clubs at 15 years old.
Yes.
That's when you started,
Yeah,
15.
I mean, I wasn't going all the time, but I went. I had a friend in high school who worked at a club as a dancer,
How
and
old's
he
your
would,
friend? Oh, a guy,
man, yes.
a male
Uh,
stripper.
he wasn't a stripper, but back then they had these clubs. Well, they were gay clubs and regular clubs, and they always had dancers. I don't know. I never go to clubs on South Beach, so I don't know, but I think they still do.
So you
Like a
obviously
club.
went to some gay clubs and you didn't realize.
Well, no, we knew there were gay clubs. They were really cool then because it was when Madonna. Do you know who Madonna is?
I'm aware of her, yeah.
Madonna lived in Miami, and Sylvester Stallone and Prince, I think, had a club there called Liquid. I think that was his club. That was Madonna's club. And it was a place where a lot of celebrities would go in Miami, and it was a thriving gay community, not lesbian, gay community. And
Lesbians.
there was a very famous gay bar, which I think is still there, called Twist. And I remember going there, and it was like just seeing guys make out and stuff, and it was all men. And my friend who wasn't gay, who now is gay. He's not my friend anymore, but anyway, he would, take us there. And then we go because we thought it was fun. I guess like dorky teenage girls thought it was fun because obviously no, weird guys were talking to us. They had no interest. And then there was a place called Warsaw, which also was, I don't know if it was gay, but it was definitely gay men, but it was like a mixture then. And also then it was like a lot of drag queens, which I don't even know if that's an appropriate term to use anymore, but a lot of men dressed up as women were doing shows and walking around South Beach. It was more of a, I guess, a creative time, but it was definitely more of a grungy time. And we used to get our, anyway, I'm rambling, but I got in a car accident once getting where I went to high school was a little bit like that show Gossip Girl, which you've probably never seen, but where I went to school all throughout. But we would go to get our makeup done before any like dance or anything. And I went to South Beach. I had my driver's license. I had a Volvo. My friends and I drove to South Beach. One of my friends lived on the beach, but we lived like, 20 minutes away. And I went to get my makeup done by a drag queen, and I looked like a drag queen when I left with huge lashes. I hated the way I looked. It was so upsetting. I mean, I looked like I was a man, and they put makeup on me. And then I got in my car, and somehow I ran over a stop sign. And a homeless man dressed like a firefighter, I can't make this up. Back then, I had a car phone, my dad's car phone. And he grabbed the phone and he said, "Call your mom." And he said, "Hi, I have your daughter. She's been in an accident." And grandma was like, "What?"
Okay.
Anyway,
So I have a
Are
few
you gonna
questions.
be able to edit this? Because this is just way too long.
I can edit it, but I'm keeping that in because it's important. I have a few questions. I'm a little confused. You ran over a stop sign. First of all, how is that even possible? And also, how
I
can you
pressed
how can you tell me you always tell me that how good of a driver you are and you're like
shoot.
a defensive driver. How are you
I
defending
was
it against the stop sign?
I wasn't, but I was probably 16 years old and wasn't a great driver because I had no experience. Um,
How'd you
and
run over the stop
I was
sign?
a
Like
terrible driver when I
pole?
first started.
Like you hit the pole and it like
Yes.
fell?
Yeah. Somehow I lost control and I ended up in front of an apartment building. It was
How
I
does
went right.
yeah, I'm
I think
sure
that stop sign, by the way, I think that stop sign they took away because I think it was a problem. But anyway, I was not a good driver and I was always
they
wearing
took it
heels.
away. I think you
Wore
just
heels.
you hit it down and they didn't feel like replacing it probably.
Maybe. Maybe.
That just shows how first of all, Miami drivers suck. They're horrible.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm sure it's because it's probably so easy to get your license in Miami. Like they don't give a shit. Like they
My
just
nanny used to get upset because, when she was old, she would say, how can they would mail her, renew her driver's license in the mail. And she thought it was horrible because she
I,
thought that she was older and they should be, making her take a test.
I agree. There's a lot of old people, not to name names, that should not be driving. It's dangerous. This is why we need self-driving cars. So
We
the
have them. We do have self-driving cars.
no, but not
Yeah.
like they're not common like to the public.
Yeah.
Like I don't think there's like fully self-driving cars you can get like for personal use. Maybe like the taxis. Like a
Yeah.
Tesla like has full self-drive, but it's not fully there
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah.
Okay,
But anyway,
well,
to go back
oh,
to the story, the point was about no, the point was about taking you is that at a certain my high school years were tough, which I won't go into, but um I when you guys started to get a little older, when my boys got a little older, we decided to move somewhere. It was like New York, LA, or outside of San Francisco. I didn't know anything about San Francisco. It was San Francisco, but I always thought it was like this bohemian place where everyone was nice and there were hippies. I was very wrong. I mean, I still love where we live outside of San Francisco, but I wanted my kids to have a wholesome childhood where they like could walk to school if possible, even though they only did that in high school, but where they didn't have to deal with the kind of stuff that I felt like I had to deal with when I was a teenager.
but I feel like that's just the time. Like the 80s and the 90s, like kids had more freedom, like they didn't have phones. They would
I
just
didn't
like
have more freedom at all, and we did have phones. I had a phone, flip phone.
because
Yeah,
like you would just like wander and like do stuff by yourself. Like you would just
no,
like like after school you probably didn't go home. You would like
yeah, I
go
did.
okay, well
Sorry, I did. I did.
your
I mean, I
brother
worked. By the way, though, I worked. I
brother's
worked.
something or
Yeah, my brother's a little different, but he's older than me. I worked. Yeah. Well, I worked at a jewelry store in a mall that's still there called Dadeland Mall. So I was there a lot working after school. I didn't place. I quit sports because I.
you want to tell the audience why you quit sports?
Well, I never really. Let's.
Well, first of
let's
all, okay, let me clarify. By sports, she means the special team, like the
No,
special Olympics.
I did volunteer at the Special Olympics. Grandma always took us to volunteer there, and I loved volunteering there.
But you were a part of it.
No, but I mean, maybe. But I did love the kids in Special Olympics. They were amazing, and I love volunteering there. I should do that again. But anyway, I was never an athlete, but it wasn't pushed like it should have been pushed. But anyway, Coach Calloway was my coach at Gulliver. Um,
What?
and she
What
told me,
sport?
I think she told me to do track because she said it was fast. And so I started doing track and field. And then when I went to high school, I did it too. But then I got embarrassed because my boobs got very big. And when I would run, the boys would laugh at me. And I also would always run crooked and I would get the team disqualified because I wouldn't run in a straight line. So I quit the track team, which was a huge mistake because it was good to have something, sports are important. And that was the other thing that I wanted for my kids. I was too embarrassed like ever like go for a field hockey team or soccer. I didn't know any of the rules. I never played when I was younger, so I had no idea how to play. So track was kind of a simple thing. And then when I was little, I danced. Um, Apparently I only use the left side of my body, but still a good dancer. Oh, anyway, but I didn't, and I acted when I was younger, but I didn't do anything athletic and it's very, and I think that sports are so important. I see how, like for you and your brother, how it just gives you so much to be a part of a team. And I always think it's amazing that you guys know what you're doing. So the point is, I stopped doing sports and then I was working and I always volunteered and I wasn't part of like any team or anything. And I think I missed out on that. And my friend, I'm still good friends with someone I went to high school with, Samantha, who's a judge in Miami, well, West Palm Beach. And she's always like, you really messed up. Like, why weren't you friend? Like, I guess I wasn't friends with the kids who were the high achieving nerdy kids. Um, but I was friendly with them because I've known them since I was younger, and I should have stayed on that route. But instead, I kind of got lost, and I was hanging out with kids who, how you like the people you hang out with really do affect you. And I was hanging out with kids who were smoking pot all day, going out to clubs, doing drugs,
You
and
talk
I
about
didn't do
the
that.
nerdy, high achieving kids. Do you mean like Jeff Bezos because he went to a high school in Miami?
Yeah,
I didn't go to your high school, but
no, he went to Palmetto, but just my friends. I mean, just like like the kids who I didn't. I used to tell grandma to make up lies why I couldn't go out because I didn't want. I felt some sort of pressure on a Friday and Saturday night. I had to go out. I don't know. Like it wasn't. It probably wasn't a long period of time, but when you look at your childhood, you can't track the time. I mean, how much time it was that I felt that like that. But the people that I'm friends with are the ones who are the more nerdy-ish kids that I'm friends with today, who I went to school with. Because the other people I, lost touch with, and
define define
some of
nerd.
them were
Define
well.
nerd.
I'll define mean girl. Okay, one of the girls when I started this school, Gulliver, I made a friend with a girl who I won't mention her name, but she would like have lunch with me one day, and then leave me the next. And get mad at me if I talked to other girls, and I didn't understand that culture.
Like the movie Mean Girls.
Kind of,
Is there
yeah.
like a day where you like have to
So
wear?
sad.
Is there like a day where you have to wear pink or like stuff like that?
Well, I don't remember. I don't think so. I always dressed, my style was always very important to me. So I always like, even though I wore a uniform, I always like, but the girls would like make fun of me because I wore these shoes actually, and then they were really in style the next year, and all of them were wearing it. So I was the only one wearing these shoes. They were like loafers with socks, by the way, which are back in again, and they all made fun of me. And then the next year, it was like every single kid was wearing it, and then I became, popular, whatever that meant.
I know
But six,
you're very into fashion. If you
yeah,
could
I'm
maybe
into style, not fashion. Anyone can have that. It can be fashionable.
it's the same thing, but if,
Fashion is like following trends and just like
whatever.
going to. Okay, sorry.
If you could choose like a few, like 1 to 3 stores for the audience that you would suggest to enhance their style, like for just an average person, where would you
Yeah,
suggest? Me personally, sorry, before you say them, I
yeah.
would say
Sure.
Zara, but
You love
go.
Zara. I mean, the thing is about fast fashion. Zara is fast fashion. Is that Zara for a year? I've been going to Zara for a long time. I used to be friends with the manager in Miami. Zara copies everything that's on the runway. You get it a little later, but literally they go to the runway, they see what's on the shows, like, from all the very high end designers, and then they copy it. So you can find amazing things at Zara. The problem with these fast fashion companies is the ethical nature of what they make, who's making the clothing. And, I always get worried. There's like a child making this, blazer that I got for $100. But Zara is a good, the thing that I've loved since I was younger is used clothing. Even because I'm the fourth and only girl in my family, and people's daughters would give my mom like bags of clothing, and I would cut them, rip them. I would get so excited. So I think someone who wants to be a little more stylish, there's a online store called The Real Real, which is in the States, not overseas. It's all used, but the thing is, you can get, especially men, if you want like a Brunello Cucinelli blazer or something very high end that you couldn't afford going to a store because it's thousands of dollars, they have them, for $100. You could buy a great shirt, pants, and then they have on the bottom of it, it'll tell you if you're allowed to return it or not. And if you live in a major city, most Real Reels are there. And you could go on the app online, find it, and you could just like search through it. It's actually kind of fun. So that's like a place I would start is the Real Real. If you want to go into a store, I think Liam's right. Going to a store like Zara is pretty helpful. Um, and also, you could always walk into any male, like men's department, and a salesperson, or they have a personal stylist there. They don't charge you for it. But if you want help figuring out like what to get, you don't have to buy anything. There's no pressure. Stores like Nordstrom do this. They'll, help you find clothing. And the other thing, the most important thing is that even if you buy clothing that's not expensive, what's the most important thing, Liam? You think?
Well, I personally think that if you're in shape, clothes will look way better on you.
Okay.
I know what you're saying. You need to
What
have
am I gonna say?
you need to have it tailored. It needs to fit you.
Yeah, it needs to fit you right because when you see, unless you're doing it, not a lot of people can get away with very trendy clothing, like when they had the oversized suit look. But if you see a man in a suit and it fits well, like you're in Italy right now, like Italians, they know how to wear a suit. If it fits well and it shows a man's body, the pants are fit well, the butt, everything, the waist, the shoulders. Well, it's important.
I know. I agree with you.
It
I'd
makes you
rather.
look amazing, and it won't look cheap. Even if you get a cheap suit, like now you can get all this cheap clothing, but even if you get a cheap suit, if you go and get it tailored, it won't. And you put like a good handkerchief inside the pocket. That's a really cool. And you get a great tie, and you get cufflinks, right, Liam, or accessories. It won't look cheap. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
I was gonna say I would rather I'd rather be in shape
Yeah,
and get like a $200 suit and have
yeah,
it tailored to me than like to have someone that's like kind of overweight and has a suit and
right.
like doesn't have it tailored and doesn't fit them well. I'd rather have the $200 suit because you're gonna look way better regardless of the
Yeah.
price.
And even if you are overweight, you could look good. You just have to get the stuff tailored, and you have to wear it in a way
Yeah,
which takes away from if you have a big stomach, and also for men, that when you're wearing a suit and it buttons, you want to make sure that the buttons are placed right if you do have a big stomach so that it kind of masks it, things like that.
yeah.
But I didn't give you
Well,
other stories because the thing is like the thing that I miss about shopping is that for me, style, because I think style is the word here, is not a shallow endeavor, even though my kids may think it is. Like for me, it's my creativity. It's always been. And I always got attention for that when I was little. That Mara style, because I always had this natural style because I just love putting clothing together. It's the way that I'm creative. And there used to be these stores. One was called Loman's, and my grandfather was friends with the owner of it. And the other store was called Filing's Basement. There was all these. It's kind of like when you guys go to TJ Maxx, maybe, but not as good. But the store Loman's was a store that had discount designer clothing. So it had regular clothing, like somewhat high end. And then there was a room called the back room where it was like the Brunello Cucinellis, the Laura Pianas, their Dolce and Gabbana, like whatever was the heyday then, whatever was in style. Sometimes you would see something so rare you would die. You'd like walk in there and like fight people for it. But when you would get the clothing, there was a group dressing room. So you had to try on the clothing in front of everybody. And it was mostly older women.
wow.
And they would make comments on what you were wearing. And it was so fun because you would like have the best time. And
I'm
their
sorry.
husband
That
would
does
sit
not sound,
outside. What?
that does not sound fun to me.
It is fun for women because the husbands or boyfriends would always, there were chairs outside the dressing room. It was so funny.
The
And
the, the worst thing as a man you can possibly do is have to wait with a woman. No offense,
yes, I
not to
agree.
title, have to wait for a woman or anyone, but
Right.
my experience is
Shop.
mostly women.
Yeah.
Wait for them shopping. It is
Yeah.
the worst possible
Yeah, I
experience.
know. The problem is I like shopping alone, but if you're with a man and then
Oh,
you see something, it's a problem because you get all excited. But the point is that the store Loman's had heavily discounted stuff. So you can get like
yeah.
stuff that was so expensive and you would I still have dresses from there. But the thing that I miss the most about shopping in that way is that it was a social situation. So you would on a Saturday, you're feeling kind of down, you go to Loman's, you meet these funny older women, you have great conversations. It's just so social. You just meet people. And the thing is that what's happened is that retail isn't like that anymore. And it's sad because people leave the house to get a social experiment, to get a social feeling, to feel like they're part of the world. And these stores don't really exist anymore. And I hope maybe I could be the one to build it. I used to work at a very fancy department store in the fashion office in Boston called Louis Boston. And they had a men's store that was unbelievable. like custom made suits, all this stuff. But it was a place where men would go to hang out, and they knew the guy who sold them their clothes, and it was something to do, and that should come back. I would like to build. I would like to build.
Thank you very much for coming on my podcast.
That's it?
Yeah, that's it. Thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you in the next
And wait,
one.
I want to leave one last thing. Anyone can have style. Okay, I mean anyone can be fashionable, not everyone can have style. So when you get up in the morning, right now I shouldn't be an example because I'm wearing the same thing, but when you look good, you feel good. That's all I'm saying. You know who could teach you that? The Italians, because they know how to dress.
Don't dress. Okay, well, thank you so much, guys. I'll see you in the next episode.